First up is the approval of the September minutes. Does anybody have any changes or want to make a motion to accept?
I have a change.
You do?
Yes, of course. On first page, number 7, under new business, the business in town should be called Milton.
Hold on, we got somebody's TV.
Yeah, it was Amy just came in. I tossed her on mute until she.
Okay, try that again, Joe.
Number 7 under new business. Number 1, it's Milltown Grill, not Midtown. Right? That's the name of his business.
Yep, I missed that one.
So did I.
Stand out like I saw some to me. I can grab them.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, do you want to make a motion to accept?
I had a couple of little things. It's just grammatical stuff. Under, it just didn't read right under grant applications. The steep grant where it says quote was received and cost of materials. This was budget numbers. It just doesn't sound, I don't know what that exactly means. These were budget numbers, but received and quote was received and costs of materials. Sounds like we're missing a couple words there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to make me look at it to try to figure out what I said?
Yeah, probably.
All right, fine. Give me a second.
That was probably me. I was probably, Tara sometimes talks a little faster in grant applications, so I was trying to keep up, I believe. But right. I will reword that. It's probably just shorthand notes instead of full sentences.
Right.
I mean, isn't on just notes sometimes okay, or do they have to be complete sentences? Because that would be.
Well, they should make some sense. So I'm looking at where you were looking, Brian. T. Pangesic and B. Santos explained that only quote was received. Probably would be better phrased. Only one quote with costs of materials was received. And this was used for the budget numbers. That's what that should say. That makes more sense.
Okay. And further down under grant applications, it's just a spelling thing at USDA on that bullet point. I believe programming is 2 M's.
Yeah.
See, I saw that and I missed Midtown. Jeez. That's it that I saw. So with that, I'm good with the minutes and I will move to accept them.
Second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're good for the minutes. See, reports. Yeah, I don't have much for reports. We'll talk about Community Day when we get to Community Day for an update. I am taking part with some of the Tiger Pride stuff going on at the high school, where the kids want to do a car show to benefit the fire department, and they're looking at snack boxes, and there's a number of projects going on that may involve EDC, TBA, Thompson Rec. I can report more on that as we get going. What about yours, Joe? You have treasury report?
Yep, I do. And in the budget, we have $19,292.16. 16 cents. 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 16 c
19,000. Woo! Let's go.
That includes a lot of things other than discretionary funds. Let's be clear.
Yeah, yeah. We had to scrape to make the best use of what we had. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, update on businesses. There were no new adoption of trade name papers for this month. We didn't have anything new going on with TBR. So I don't have anything for businesses. I don't know if anyone else does.
Nope.
Nothing this month.
Okay. Old business. The October 1st Community Day wrap up. Not everyone went, so you can't all comment, but my comments in checking with the people who set up, the vendors and the craft people, and everybody thought it went pretty well, and considering that it was a rain date, considering that it was Columbus Day weekend, considering that everybody else in the world had other stuff going on. People weren't ecstatic, but they realized it was pretty good for what it was, and the weather was nice, and overall, I think it was successful. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it went really well for a rain date event. And I mean, it was cool, but could have been a few degrees warmer, but it wasn't hot, so people were comfortable. It seemed like we had a decent turnout for the loss of the original date. Most of the vendors were there. The setup worked well again, I believe. So I wasn't there for the wrap-up meeting. Were you there, Brian, for that?
They were supposed to tell me when it was, and they never did, and I never got a link. So no.
Okay.
I don't think that they knew that you weren't told.
Well, this happens almost every time.
Well, this I cannot explain, but I did go to the wrap-up meeting, even though I actually was not there because I was not able to attend on the rain date. In general, I think everybody was satisfied, especially considering it was, the second choice date, which is usually disastrous.
Yes.
I only personally saw pictures online, obviously, but all the pictures looked fantastic. The feedback was generally good. There were, there's always some feedback from certain people in certain spots that they'd rather have been here versus there. And we've got that input for next year. But for the most part, I think we're going to stick with a similar format going forward, which is, so that we can use the promenade as well as the field. That it seems to be something people are getting used to. It uses more of the field. I don't remember anything being particularly challenging. I think the new elements that we added, the white elephant tables and the kids bookshop, they're new, so they need to be fleshed out. But I guess the feedback from the white elephant table participants was pretty decent. And I think that has some potential to be a nice addition. The kids bookshop, they are supposed to be opening now on Fridays. I know they did sell some books. I did not see what price point they were using, but I know we deposited a small amount of cash into an account for them, $56. If they're selling books at $2 or $3 or $4 a pop, that's not bad.
They were $3, $5, and $7.
Okay, so they used higher price points than I thought, but even so, that's not terrible for a first outing. And they've got all that inventory. And I have to do a separate wrap up with Melinda and Katie Butler about that to see how they want to move forward for the rest of this soft launch season, and then how they want to move into the spring. But they've got plenty of inventory. I think there were still some issues with sound on the field. in terms of being able to project to all of the vendors, just even on the field itself. But you know, sound is sound. It's an equipment thing. It's not a.
I don't think there was an issue on the field. It was going back to the pavement. I know I was mostly out on the field, and you could hear everything out there with the sound equipment there. But once you went past the cul-de-sac, the circle with the food, you couldn't hear anything up where the vendors were, which is why I suggested that if we do get a PA system and it's portable, that gives us some flexibility to make announcements and the like in both locations.
Yeah.
The other possibility is if there really is no bleed over, to also have some secondary stuff going on, maybe at the gazebo. You know, maybe hire a second musician for earlier in the day so that the folks at that end can feel a little more connected. You know, a solo act, something that wouldn't be terribly expensive, but would create that sense of fun up at that end, and then the main attraction on the field.
Yeah, I'm one who would still like to see everything on the field, but that's not going to happen.
I think that especially, maybe it was because of the rain date, but I thought the crowd size was perfect for that event. For that, when I was there over the noon hour and till about, I don't know, 1 or 2. But it was a good sized crowd. They were moving around comfortably and stopping at vendors. And I spoke with the woman at the bookshop, and I guess they got caught by the rain date because they didn't have any of the students, and I guess she was a teacher. So
yeah, she had her 4 kids and no students.
Yeah, one of her children. But you know, there was traffic. There were people stopping and talking, and I thought that that's what we wanted.
Seemed to be a lot more kids this year too, and I thought the bounce houses, well, 2 of them were brand new to that company, and they debuted them, but they were really some cool bounce houses, and the kids were really engaged in that. I even saw more kids on the hay maze this year than I did last year.
Well, 6 of them were my grandkids, so that made it look proud. Yeah, one thing, the bounce houses I really like, they were well staffed, so we didn't have to police anything. Parents didn't have to worry about their little ones getting trampled. The bounce house, the staff was there, watching to make sure kids weren't going the wrong way up the slide, and you know, the things that you watch for when you have little kids. One thing that we did get a lot of comments on is that the original half hour, the first half hour, was all timed out on paper on a schedule. And since we didn't keep to the schedule, everybody missed the speeches, including May Flexer, who was taking her time getting, well, she was taking her time getting there because she wasn't on until, you know, 12:15 or, you know, whatever the sheet said.
Yeah, it was 12:15, and I got called up there probably about 12:08, as you know, because you were up after me, and yeah. I'm not a real pro at filling time and trying to stall. So then you took over, and we returned John to the stage with May when May showed up.
Yeah, and mine was at 12:22, and when we were done at like 12:12, later everybody's coming up to me, when's the speech? When you giving out business of the year? Okay, 10 minutes ago. So we'll have to keep that in mind, because like I said, even May knew what time, and she was taking her time getting to the stage, going down the promenade. So yeah, I mean, that was really the only glitch that I saw.
And that's where a sound system on the other side would help as well. We want to try to keep to the timing. We should be more conscious of that ourselves, have the DJ understand that he's got to keep to the schedule, and just wait until that time comes up instead of just proceeding step by step. But still, if we were able to make those announcements further down the other side, it would have solved some of that.
Yeah, or we could just say 12 to 12:30 is announcements and awards.
Yeah, doesn't have to be specific.
Yeah, it's just something to talk about. I'll bring it up with Brian too. Brian Levency. Anything else? I did talk with Brian before the wrap-up meeting. One problem we're having with TBA is getting none of the restaurants a part of the business association. And it would be nice, even if they set up, when vendors set up, even to give out takeout menus, business cards, they don't have to bring their ovens. One thought I had was bringing back some type of food to community day, like we used to do the pizza contests. And all of the pizza houses in town would, give out samples and people would vote. We could do something like a chili contest and have all of the restaurants participate in something that a common theme like chili.
Yeah.
Maybe get more of the businesses there and more of the people there. We have the room. So, we're always looking to expand it. So we'll see how that goes.
Santos might make it then to do the tasting.
Yeah.
Judge.
Where are you going with that, Brian?
I know. There's some shade thrown, I think.
Nah,
You're breaking up a little bit, Brian. What did you say?
I'm going under a bridge. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at our little 9 squares, and all the Bryans are across Hollywood squares here.
Oh, yeah, this is a riot. Okay, anyway, yeah, if we're done talking about Community Day overall, yeah, I think it went really well. I have to apologize. Under old business, I put funding for the PA system, and I never got with Kira to take a look at our budget and see if we could free up something. So we didn't do anything, or I didn't do anything.
Well, we're going to be talking about the budget shortly anyway, so hold your thought.
Yeah, I like I said, the last month has been a blur. My blood pressure is actually up 40 points.
Regarding that, since we are at that point on the agenda, I just don't know about the funding. Again, we have approval from Trail for up to 750. We have approval from Recreation for up to 750 and Historical for up to 400. If EDC joins in, basically we are under 400 per participant. So we can all be equal components, assuming the price hasn't gone up in the last 2 months since I went shopping for it.
Yeah. Would you say Historical Society was 450?
400 is the most that Joe would commit to. But my quote with the microphone was about 1,500. So if we have 4 participants, that puts us all under 400 each. 375 it'll be, I believe, give or take.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, I'll try to do something before the next meeting, because then we're off until January.
Well, I needed to make the purchase by the end of this month to try it for turkey trot though.
Well,
so you're saying you need a vote tonight, Lafredo?
Ideally, yeah. Otherwise, I do have enough money from the other committees, so we could still make the purchase and await a vote from EDC before we define exactly how much we need from the other committees. That would probably work as long as we have the money approved, and we do between the other 3 groups. So.
Well, I'm going to make a suggestion here under new business that let's dedicate new business to a number of things about the budget. I know Amy has something she wants to bring up, and Santos and I have something we need to run by you, so we can sort of deal with it all in one conversation maybe. And some of the stuff is just like conceptual at this point, but some of it is actually really looking at money. So I'm going to toss that out to you guys for consideration, since we're about to move on to that agenda item.
Sounds good.
Okay with me.
So Amy, yours I think is the first most urgent, and then Santos and I will go to our thing, and then we'll talk about some of those hypotheticals.
Okay, so we are currently getting ready for the audit, and in doing so, Bill Steglitz and I have been working on the transfers for the town. What we knew was that because of the ambulance service and the emergency need of having to contract with KB Ambulance at a very high price in order to ensure that our community would have ambulance service, we went severely over budget. Not as bad as it could have been, but we're $104,000 over our expenses. So in evaluating what we had, and that we were saved by the fact that the income into the town from tax revenue, et cetera, was about $400,000 higher than we had anticipated. So all that being said, as we were crunching numbers and we were looking at encumbrances from FY 2022, there were $101,000 in encumbrances. So that's carryover. So money that wasn't used in 2022, but that's earmarked for various projects. Bill and I are asking for everybody to give that up. So that would leave us at around $4,000 roughly in the red versus 104,000.
So to be clear, what we're talking about here specifically is the $2,000 that we encumbered for the bike repair station, which I know Trails has also agreed to put a matching amount or a close to matching amount aside. Amy and I talked about this the other day. And I think we can give it up because of two things. Even though Brian and I are about to present an expenditure to you guys, you would still have the ability either to use this year's budget or to go back in the next budget cycle and, you know, ask for that as a line item amount. It just puts off the purchase. It doesn't say you're never going to do it. But I think that would be showing that EDC are team players. Also, I'm pretty sure we don't have much choice in the matter, so we may as well be nice about it.
And unfortunately, I don't think that the Board of Finance has always been team players with EDC. So I understand why this is a blow. If it's something you absolutely felt you needed to keep, I would consider. At this point, the only thing we're keeping is the money that was appropriated for the MS4, which is the municipal stormwater program that we've contracted with J&D to finish some of the reporting. And we've also kept the dime oil encumbrances because we know that we're going to go over this year in what we appropriated for heating oil. Because clearly the market's not dropping like we had hoped. We did lock in recently for half of the amount of oil that we typically lock in for at $3.20, I think.
Nice. But
hoping it goes down, but we just know that's still higher than what we had projected. So those are the encumbrances at this point that have been kept in place. Everything else on the town side was given back for the sake of the taxpayers. So.
And I'm okay with postponing the bike repair station. I mean, we won't lose it. We could just postpone it.
I'm not opposed to postponing it either, but I do think that the number of dollars that EDC has asked is about $1,000 or maybe $1,200 because that would be half of the total purchase price.
No,
somehow we snagged on the number of 2,000 from EDC, but I understand that this is a critical situation in the town. It needs to be addressed, and long-term planning needs to go in so that we don't stumble over this kind of thing again.
Well, I mean, in the defense of the town, when an ambulance service walks off the job and when the administrators of that ambulance service walk into the town hall and say, here you go, figure it out. We were really in a bind. And I give kudos to KB Ambulance because they did provide a service, and it took service away from the towns that they already serve. It really did. And we heard that from some of the chiefs at the various departments in the Killingly area, that having an ambulance housed in Thompson all those months took away from the service that they provided to the Killingly area. Neither here nor there. It was a high price. Was it exorbitant? Probably. But I think we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. We are contracted now with Putnam EMS. They are doing an amazing job for the town. It's everything we planned. Everything we planned on how it was to function is happening. And it's a success. It's budgeted. So at this point, I don't foresee any major hiccup like that again.
Amy, I don't think anyone's contesting what happened. We're not making this a political
thing.
I know. You did
what
you had to do, and we have a bill that the town's responsible, and we're willing to do what we have to do. I think to Charlie's point, I'm worried you're considering, or Tara's considering more. If she's thinking 2,000 each from trails and EDC, I don't think we encumbered that much. I think
no, it was just
we encumbered 2,000.
Right.
2,000 total. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Trails' commitment to this thing are not tax dollars. So what Trails is setting aside and saying that they would match, it has no impact on monies that were available for the town. It better still be a separate account because it's not coming from tax dollars.
This is true. Trails is its own entity and our own money. So,
yeah. And I honestly didn't think I didn't think of it in a political manner. I just think as the further we get away from that moment in time where we were without ambulance, we forget, it's the further away you get from a tragic situation, you kind of forget how you were really stuck.
Oh, no. We know that. We're not questioning that.
That's saying what I said in a different way. We solved the problem, but most people would say, oh, it's all no problem.
Right.
It won't go away by itself.
And I don't want, the biggest thing, I don't want the Board of Finance come next budget season. I want them to remember that EDC, as a few departments, the highway department is giving back almost $50,000 in encumbrances.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So that's where the biggest hit is being absorbed. So
that amount of money was for a year and a half, right? That the ambulance service provided.
It was from September until approximately May of this year. When it lowered, it wasn't budgeted still, but it lowered from where KB was. So September to May.
Okay.
Was there anything else that you talked about for cutting the EDC from EDC?
Not that Amy and I spoke about, but we do have some budget items right now. So we may as well transition to the next one, as long as you guys are all cool with, well,
Tara, my question was, and somebody who handles the budget for EDC, I don't know if that's Joanne. We're only talking about anything encumbered in 2022. Did you have some funds that were encumbered prior, like fiscal year 21 or 20?
I looked very briefly with Paula at some of the past years. I thought there was a couple of very small ones. We found one small one, which was a leftover. I don't even know why it was in there. Honestly, it should have been cleared ages ago, but there it was for like $150 or something. Yeah, nothing of any real size. And I thought there was another 200 or so from one, the one that I used to order, the PO that I used to order the books for the kids.
Okay.
Because we had a shipping estimate when I ordered it, and then it came in at $200 less. Like there was a $400 estimate and it was only $200 and some to ship. And Paula had told me that she was going to retain that PO in case they decided to order more, but we couldn't find it. So she must have already rolled it into the general fund.
Okay.
She doesn't.
All right.
So it was all, yeah, only tiny little amounts like that.
Tara, do we still have something in the 11th Village encumbered?
We do, but Mike Joyce is actively using it. So I can't, I need to know what, if he's done with those expenses. If he is, then I can find out what that is. But he told me he was going to order another thing of lumber from Dave Hancock. And it's very hard for me to get confirmation sometimes.
I saw him today too, and I didn't think to talk about the village.
Yeah, right before Community Day, he had said he was going to place that lumber order. So I haven't seen an invoice from it. If it turns out that he hasn't ordered it, well, I'll just have to find out. I'll find out, because that would be another $1,000 or $2,000 probably.
Yeah, the way things are moving, we could put some of that off if we have any.
Yeah,
left,
we could.
and there's not a lot of movement on the construction.
Yeah, but he was definitely planning on doing some. So I will, I'll email Mike tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on, and this is where I think, you know, some of these decisions may make sense to be made tonight, and some of them maybe you can mull on for another month. As you guys, I think, know, we had issued an RFP for the architecture and design services for 65 Main. We did get a proposal which we accepted from Silver Petricelli and Associates. They are also the same firm that's going to be doing the design on the combined EMS and salt storage facility. So essentially, I think they gave us package deal pricing. Santos and I were also able to work with him on his proposed price. So what we got him down to was 28-ish, and the actual number is escaping me right now. I could pull it up.
28-ish is right.
28-ish, yeah. So we have the $20,000 private donation that covers the bulk of that. We have $5,500 in an unexpended grant line item that is dedicated to the 65 Main projects. And that left $3,100. So the money that was given to the EDC budget by Board of Finance for this cycle was all predicated on funding for the 65 Main project. So all things said and done, EDC's share that we're proposing is that $3,100. So it's about half of the yearly budget that the commission has, but all in all, much lower than we initially. I mean, we were initially going to put 15 grand towards it, you know, in that first request to finance. But I sent the, or I will be sending the formal letter of award back to Silver Petricelli tomorrow because Amy has signed it. But I would like to have those finances confirmed from all sources. The other two sources are already confirmed, so it's really just this one. And I think it makes sense for you guys to formally vote, even though you fundamentally already agreed to the concept when you did the budget. I think for the sake of the record, it makes sense to just confirm that here.
And just to kind of outline reasons for the overages a little bit is, like Tira said, it was designed in architectural services, but I had reviewed with this guy, Bill Silver, who is one of the owners and principals of the architectural firm, hazardous materials, lead abatement plans, just making sure that that type of stuff is outlined and communicated properly. So when we do go out to bid, we have all of that documentation ready to go for the demo or abatement contractors. I just wanted to make sure that that was well covered. So that was driving up the cost just a little bit. That's why we're coming in at asking for this $3,100 essentially, is just to make sure that those things are covered properly.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
just
well worth it.
It just, even as a non-professional in construction, you can stand in that building and see that the place is lousy with lead paint. So, an abatement plan definitely needs to be a part of it.
Yeah, so that was kind of like a specialty thing, but like I said, it's required. So we need to do that.
Okay, so you want us to vote to appropriate the 3,100?
Well, to commit it. I mean, it's already in your budget, and that would be an encumbrance, but it would be an encumbrance in this fiscal year with this year's budget, separate from what they're going to clear that deficit from.
Make a motion that we allocate the funds as outlined so that we can move this project forward.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of allotting the 3,100?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're on record.
Great.
Okay, I see your note, Amy. I'm going to bring up that. Oh, she's already gone. I'm going to transition to the next thing. And this is something that does not require any action from you guys tonight. It's just something I want to introduce to you conceptually. Having to do with the social media intern line item in our budget and some persistent sort of challenges we've been facing. When we first had the social media intern, it was working really, really great. We currently actually don't have one. There are the two interns. There's Jaden in the rec office. She is technically a different intern. She's the, I think we called her the events intern. And I do think some of that funding is coming from EDC right now, but I think the rest of it is coming out of a payroll item in rec. I will say that I'm fuzzy on that, so don't quote me, Heather. But there's some combination that involves EDC. The line item itself is still in our payroll, and we haven't had an actual social media intern in quite some time. A thing that we keep getting challenged on at every level in town hall is, capital C, communication. Now, a lot of the comments made around that are not made in good faith. People telling us that we're concealing things, or, those are just adversarial comments. But we're always on the back foot on this issue, because even though we certainly hit all of our legal requirements, some of the above and beyond communication that would be helpful to the public is just beyond anybody's scope. I mean, stuff goes through Marie or Renee or me, but none of us is super well situated to have that be top priority on our list of things to do. And a lot of it does get done, but there also are a lot of things that get missed or skipped or done late or whatever. And so we just keep getting on the back foot on this issue. So what I suggested to Amy the other day, and I chatted about it with Michelle earlier today, is into the next budget cycle, possibly migrating that intern payroll line item out of EDC, if they can come up with some other money in the general budget to fund a payroll item for a communications coordinator. So not an intern, not a student, a part-time employee, and anything I would say about what that should be would be very hypothetical right now, because I just have sort of an idea about it in my head. Somebody 12 to 15 hours a week, whether that be 4 days, 3 days, 5 days a week, for a few hours a day, whose responsibility would be the website maintenance, the sign, the social media, linking things to the online calendar, maybe some press releases. I think, you know, those of us in the departments would also still be issuing our own press releases on big projects. But somebody whose only function was to proactively go from department to department and say, what's coming up, so that we don't get stuck in that cycle of having to, you know, be embarrassed because we missed something. So far, everybody seems sort of in favor of it. Renee had some concerns about how it would work, but you know, it's just an idea right now. So I just wanted to toss that out to you guys because, again, come budget season, that's been a line item that's been renewed. This year it was underutilized, not through any fault of EDCs. We just didn't have a student to fill properly when Zay left. We didn't have anybody else come down the pipe. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea.
I think it's a great idea. It's about time that, you had a dedicated person who can be the intermediary, so to speak, between all committees and commissions and the public. Since you're right, we always do get kind of a bad break with the public. They seem to not know what's going on. So I think that's a great idea. And can't every department maybe throw $1,000 or something out in their budget to towards the social media or communications HR person, kind of?
Yeah, that might be one way to handle it. I mean, I don't know how assigning a new position into the, you know, into the town hall general staff works. That's why I'm saying this is all like very skeletal. Assuming, you know, Michelle seemed very in favor of the idea as well. I mean, everybody's liked it that we've talked about it. So it would be a matter of how that works. Now, not every department has a budget in the way EDC does. Not every commission does. Every official department certainly does. But you know, some budgets are like $100. I think conservation's whole budget is the conservation agent and like periodicals. So there's no operating budget that they have other than that. So, but yeah, I mean, the details have to get worked out separately, but that's not a bad way to approach it, Joanne.
Well, it could also be one day a week. I mean, you know, instead of a few hours, that's kind of bites into somebody's schedule. If, I got to work 2 hours a day, they could come in on a Friday or come in on a Monday and then go around each of the committees or commissions or departments and see what's going on. You know, that person would have to kind of create their own job description pretty much, but if that's the only way to get some of the word out to the public, because let's talk about it. I mean, I heard Amy on the radio. Was it this morning or yesterday morning?
She was on today, yeah.
Today. And, you know, the, what's his name, Addison, was praising Thompson up and down, saying how great we are and how many good things we're doing. So he has that impression, but I think the general public has to, because after that meeting we had last Friday, Tara, I apologize for the public not respecting your position in town, but you know, they don't know what we're doing behind the scenes. So I think it's an important feature that we need to address and introduce to the town.
Yeah, and you know, to be clear, some of the people who are lobbying these complaints actually do know, and they're doing it on purpose. But the vast bulk of the people who get sort of swept up in this don't know, right? They don't live and breathe this stuff. So it is a legitimate thing to say, how can we make it easier for people to find things out? I think we all want to do that if you push away some of the sort of toxic and corrosive dialogue around it. You know, how can we do it in the best way that we can? So if, you know, and like I say, there's no decision to be made here. This is really something to think about going into the next budget season. But I just wanted to sort of get it in your minds.
Well, what do we do to
well, it would be releasing that the line item for the intern essentially back into the general fund, with the understanding it would be going back towards this other position. That's what I think I would have to talk through with Amy and Michelle, like how to clarify that in that budget process.
Well, I think it should be on the agenda then until we finally have a person. So, Brian, make a mental note that we should discuss this every meeting until we find somebody, because that's a great idea.
There's no need to discuss it every meeting because we're not going to be hiring the person. We just want to.
We don't want to forget about it either.
No, we want to unencumber that line item, put it back into general fund, and use that to contribute toward a person. So,
but if EDC can't hire the person, I realize that. Somebody has to. So what department or
we'll handle that when budget stuff comes up. So I mean, we don't have to talk about it every month. It's if people are generally in favor of it, which I always say you cannot possibly over communicate. So if we can do something for communication, I'm always for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so. All I'm really looking for is, you know, a general feeling of approval from you guys, and I will continue to work on it with Amy and Michelle. I think that's really what this is. You guys don't have to make a decision. I just need to know that you're comfortable with the concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the concept, but something that I came in contact, is there any reason that we're not reaching out towards Marianapolis School? If we can't find talent available at the Thompson Public School. And the reason I ask is because I met a man at the Historical Society meeting who's a professor over there, or instructor, whatever their titles are at the private schools. And he said, these kids are banging the doors down trying to get community service projects that they can do something about. And he's got people that have IT capabilities, and I don't know, could be like walking over $100 bills sitting on the ground and just walking away. Maybe it's there and we're never thought of it.
That's not a bad idea, Charlie. I mean, I can tell you that the main reason we've been going through the public high school is because of the lack of good opportunities, right? That the public high school gets offered as opposed to a boutique private school like Marianapolis. But if we're not fulfilling the need through the public school, and Marianapolis has students who could commit, I mean, we could at least then use the rest of the line item for this year. I'll bring it up to Renee tomorrow if I get a chance to.
Okay. Yeah, this guy said that they're banging the doors down all over the campus trying to find community service. Give them an idea. They don't know what to do.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thanks, Charlie.
And the turnaround people are too. I don't know why they're.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there, Brian, and say that Heather she's been doing mock interviews with people and speaking to the right, you know, senior staff over there that probably has some good names to offer on this front. Capable and responsible, and will bring a level of accountability to. You know, to help us here. So
can you ask Heather to email me and Renee tomorrow? Yeah, and then we can sort of get that thread going.
Yep, I'll do that tonight. Yep.
Actually, Brian, that was mentioned. Heather was mentioned this morning on the radio, because being a member of the Board of Education, isn't she the one who's implementing this kind of a service? That the superintendent brought up the fact that they're changing their curriculum to include community service for their students, which is a terrific idea.
Yeah, Heather and I have been engaging with Melinda on engaging the students in just general spirit. I'm just going to keep it at a high level. General spirit of the school, publicizing that a little bit more, doing proper fundraising, and various tickets and just awards. And there's been a lot of press about this. So yes, Joanne, that's Heather is leading that charge. Yep.
Just another superstar named Santos.
On the radio.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this stuff gets out, but I don't get a paper. So apparently the radio was the way to go. So today's the first time I heard of it.
Yeah, you're going to see various these $20 raffle prizes. We just put them in down at Milltown, Anya, Riverside, Thompson House. They're going to be publicized all over the place. That was part of the reason why I was on air this morning.
Right.
Just trying to raise money. They're $20 raffle tickets. They're actually my Celtics tickets that we're giving away, but that's the grand prize. And we're trying to raise like 10 to 15 grand for various programs over there. So anyway, yeah, a lot of good things happening.
Perfect.
But I'll not to speak for the group. I think you have our general approval and support of this, Tira. So just we'll bring the names and we'll go from there. So
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
ask
So
and email it out. All right.
yeah, so let's work in the short term on at least getting the intern role filled for the rest of the school year or the fiscal year, which is actually the same as the school year. And then I'll work with Michelle and Amy on seeing if we can solidify that additional staff position for starting next fiscal year.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. What else? Did we have anything else under that new business budget type topic?
Do we need a motion for Amy's encumbrance of the previous $2,000? Do we need to do something with that?
I'm pretty sure they're taking that money back whether you move on it or not, but
okay, fine.
it would be a goodwill gesture to make the motion and just acknowledge it as a part of the record. That actually, honestly, you know, talking about how the Board of Finance in its latest iteration hasn't necessarily respected the EDC. I think that is optically good to show your good sportsmanship and to request some good sportsmanship and treatment in return.
I'll make the motion to reassign the already covered $2,000 to trails and reassign it to the EMS.
Point of order, Heather Gaucher, that's that encumbrance is to DERO, DERO, for the bike repair station.
Oh, okay,
just to be clear, that makes it.
Yeah, we're just turning it back to the town.
Right.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're officially
Unencumbered.
Yeah.
Taking a full circle back to the PA system now. I'm also fine. I mean, we don't need it. It was immediately. We're all set this year, and I'm fine if we want to even hold off and let the other committees know that we'll hold off until next year, given this new information, and maybe revisit getting a system at some point next year, especially if we do a little better with the budget process.
But did you already try to use it for the turkey trot, Brian? I thought
we have John's brother's system. This was, I wanted to use it to try it where we weren't dependent on it. So we have a system anyway for this one.
Okay. All right.
And we've already done community day. So
I don't think you need to not spend that. I mean, first of all, you're talking about $400 and there is still a budget for the year. And you know the way municipal budgets work, if you don't use it, you lose it. So since that is this year's budget, I would say that there's no reason to not use that. And it probably is more favorable for you to use it. But that is up to you guys to decide. Similarly, to go back to the bike repair station, the choice to make is if you really want to go all in, like if you really want it this year, and I'm not saying that you should, I actually am of the other opinion, but you could, in this year's budget, put that half into it. It's another expenditure, or you could put it into the next year's budget request. I am personally more in favor of the latter because I think it makes some balanced sense to go back and ask for what we gave back.
Yeah, it just will work in our favor.
I agree, and we're not really ready for it anyway. We eventually, if we want to put it down at the train wreck park, I mean, we're just temporarily putting it in mechanic. We weren't even sure where to put it yet. So
yeah.
That's also how I feel about it, but I don't want to make the choice for you guys. I just wanted to say you could do an either or there. But as to the PA system, that is such a small amount of money and you still want to spend your budget. So spend it on the things that have value to you.
Well, that's what we were going to look at the budget and see what we had that could, because I don't know. I don't remember anything that was left over like $400 sitting around.
Well, you haven't committed that 7,500 except for the 3,100 you just committed. So that still leaves you with.
We're not like last year where we had plans in place for most of the money waiting for it to be spent. This year, we don't have that. If I'm understanding correctly.
Close enough. I mean, yeah. we had plans that we ended up funding through leftover funds from other things last year. So the things that you committed the money to in your budget by the end of the fiscal year, you still had that money left. So then we encumbered it into projects we knew weren't going to be able to get funded with the way they took our budget down by half. So that's where that's all ended up. And some of that money's been spent. But that $2,000 was one that had not been spent. So that was, low hanging fruit for them to go back and release.
And the other side of the coin is that while we have this commitment from the other partners involved, if we decide to hold off on it, we could lose that commitment.
I agree with what Tara said. The amount of money that EDC is asked to chip in on this is very small. And if it sounds to me like it is available in this fiscal year's budget, I'll make a motion that we move this forward and solve it so we have it for turkey trot.
A second.
Okay, so we talking $400, Brian?
Yes.
Is that a good amount?
Yes.
I mean, just so we know what we're voting on, and Heather can document.
As far as if we wanted to at a later point, get the rolling, the wheels thing, like the guy suggested at Community Day that he uses, that he said was about another 125, but that's minor stuff. So I'm more concerned about getting the system in place and then seeing if we even need that later on.
All right, all in favor of contributing $400 toward this PA system?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. Happy, Bri?
Neither happy nor unhappy. It's nice to.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
It does have the karaoke option, right?
Yeah.
Last names only, Brian's. Last names only. Too many Brian's.
Yep. Okay. So do you want to move on to progress reports? If we're set with all of this money stuff, well, more money stuff. All right, what do you have, Tara?
Oh, let me just look at them in order on the agenda. Grant applications. I'm in sort of a lull point on new applications. There were a couple of largish ones I had been considering with the private developer who purchased the 152 acres around North Grosvenor-Dale Pond. Both of those ended up coming to nothing, and it's not a bad thing. It just, there wasn't enough potential benefit from his point of view on his project to assembling the materials. And it still was a competitive process, so we let those go. In terms of applications that might be coming down the pike, I am either in the December quarterly round or the winter into spring quarterly round, March, April, whenever it is, planning on submitting some kind of grant to the T-Mobile Foundation. They do placemaking grants of up to $50,000 with no match requirement. They have to be shovel ready projects that it's a certain kind of placemaking. You know, they want to enhance the community's ability to gather. That's the best way to put it. So go ahead, Joanne.
No, keep talking. I said, because I have an idea.
Oh, I thought you said you had an idea. So Mizrak actually was going to go on a site walk through Riverside Park last week, but in addition to the fact that we had a 2-hour meeting, it was raining, so we didn't. However, in the meantime, and actually partly as a result of some of the more rational content that was raised in that meeting, I want to take a look at the bend in Route 12 in front of Milltown Grill and Swanson Park, at the lighting situation there. I believe that this grant would cover that up to 50 grand, you know, in amount. So but I have to look at it through. So that's what I'm percolating, and that'll be either something I submit in December, or like I say, the winter to spring quarterly round, because it's 4 times a year that this one comes up. The other thing is I had updates on 2 of the active grants now. The Trails grant for Trainwreck Park, Kim Bradley, who is the person who replaced Lori Giannotti at CT Deep, said I should be getting the executed contract back any day now. I had asked about that because the Historical Society was asking me about it, so I went for a follow-up. So I'm hoping by the end of the week I'll have a fully signed contract so we can move forward there, get the site work design done, because that's all we're waiting for. Related to that, Kim mentioned that same grant program that gave us the 16 grand for the design is going to open up again. And CT Deep really loves the Trainwreck Park project. They just got so many applications last year, they couldn't fund our whole request. We still have, you know, we committed 154,000 roughly out of the ARPA money toward that project. Only 4,000 of the ARPA money is matched against the 16 grand we're getting for the design. So I could theoretically still leverage the rest of the 150 into a proposal for the rest of the train rack site development. So unless something prevents me from doing that, I'm more or less planning on doing that again. I'm still hopeful we can get the whole soup to nuts park constructed. Obviously, I can really only throw that grant against the wall one more time, because after that, once the design's done, you know, we're going to want to move forward and construct it. We can't not construct it forever. But so I just want to let you know about that. And then the other one is the STEEP grant, which is for the library roof. My contact from the state got in touch with me today, which was a good thing because it was in the back of my mind. They were waiting for a signed copy of our budget. I didn't realize Amy hadn't signed it yet. So I had her sign that and sent it over today. So hopefully we'll be able to get the library re-roofed in short order as well. And then the $2 million cleanup grant is just taking for flipping ever to wade through. We can't do anything with the big mill until it's signed, but the second it's signed, the environmental cleanup will start. So those are all the grant applications. I'm not really pursuing anything big right now unless something new comes on the horizon that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
All right, what's next? Marketing stress status of survey. It's just been open. Nobody's done anything with that. And that, by the way, might be another thing I might pass off to a communications person.
Yeah.
I've dropped the ball on that too, so I'm to blame for that as well. But we did, but the people we did talk to didn't follow through either. Not a lot of excitement for this one. Yeah, I don't have anything for website notes. I actually don't think I've been on except to check for minutes.
11th Village,
I have a note about the website because I did go on it. I was doing a Walktober walk and I zapped the map, Find Your Way, and there might be a little bit of improvement when we have an intern to include links to emergency numbers, whether it's the fire departments or whether it's beyond that, but it doesn't show up there. You have to really dig down in the webpage to find emergency management at all. However, since these maps are reaching out to visitors, what we can do to make it easier, I think we should look at that. No?
I think it's a valid point, Charlie. I don't know that there was a question to be answered.
Okay.
What's next on the list? 11th Village Progress, we talked about a little bit. I have to do a debrief with Katie and Melinda. I sent an email to them late last week. I think it was late last week, saying that we need to do that. We haven't set a date and time yet. I'm hoping they go down there this Friday. But one of the pieces that again, and I don't know who takes this role, is how do we promote that? Because they're going to be there at weird times, right? They're going to be there on Friday afternoons from lunch till I don't know when, right? Because they're working within the constraints of the school day. This is still a soft launch. They're figuring things out. I want to help them figure it out. But another piece of that is, how do we get the word out while they're figuring it out? And I need to talk to the two of them about that.
Yeah, nobody knows what we did for sales on Community Day, because I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, it was $56. So how many books?
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, how many books? I don't know. If they were all $3 books, it's different than if they were all $7 books.
I bought a $5 book.
Well, there you go.
Not that good, but I bought a $5 book.
Don't say it wasn't that good.
I mean, boy, you should get one.
I'd really like to see, and again, Santos, this might be something that I can talk to Heather about more. My connection to the school is very tenuous. I have a good relationship with them, but they're not a part of my daily function, nor am I top of mind for them.
Yeah.
I want to help them move forward with it, but I think it will be best if it is within the school that these details are ultimately ironed out. I will always help them think through problems. But it can't just be me dictating a project to them.
Yeah, sure.
And some internal help from, I don't know, maybe from Heather and Jess, from the PTO, from the staff. There's different challenges to working with each of those groups.
Yep.
But if they can take ownership of it now that I've set them up with the basics, then I think it has a better chance of success than me trying to drive that ship.
Agreed.
So that's the 11th Village Progress. We're closing on 20 of, so I'm trying to keep mine brief. Charlie, you're up with bicycling and other events, or Charlie and Lafredo?
I don't think we have any updates that I can provide. Everything is still waiting. I've sent off an email to Kim Bradley, reintroducing myself and letting her know that loose ends need to be picked up, and I'm hoping to get something there soon. There was one other point, though. I'll wait until comments by commissioners. I don't have anything to report on bicycling.
Okay, you're all set.
All right,
Lafredo.
I don't have the agenda here as the game's about to start, but I know I have turkey trot on the agenda.
Yeah, that's the last item. But
okay. Do you want me to jump ahead while I'm here? Or?
No. Well, we have the sidewalk project next, and as you can see, that's moving onward.
Yeah. So I will say this related to the sidewalk project. Joanne and I have been talking about this very challenging meeting that we had on Friday with Mizrak. That was people who were coming out to show support for Milltown Grill because it's been really, really chaotic over there. Now, it got really contentious, and kind of nasty, but the base point is an important one, which is that it is super challenging for Milltown over there right now. So if anybody can show support by going to eat there over the next, I don't know, it's probably 2 more weeks of real chaos. They're going to be pouring the concrete for that length of sidewalk and part of the patio area presently. And then the state's coming in to pave. Their date is now the 26th. After those 2 things are done, even though that section won't be complete, it's going to look a lot better and be functional. There are still some issues to work out with the parking over there. And that was what sort of all of the really ugly stuff in that MISRAC meeting centered around. For the most part, the people involved actually really meant well. They're trying to show support for a local business. We want to support Dan and make sure they are doing well. We always knew this was going to be difficult during this period, but it doesn't matter how much you tell somebody something's going to be difficult. Once the chaos arrives, it seems that much worse. So certainly encourage people to go down there. I don't know if there's anything that you guys would brainstorm here to do other than just being there personally. But I will say that it did occur to me, Yacino, that even though Milltown is not a member of TBA, that it might be a good faith gesture for TBA to do some promotion, essentially almost as like extend them like a temporary membership in terms of giving them that support. And, you know, maybe that would spur them to join. But even if it doesn't, it is showing support for one of our more successful and more public businesses that's locally grown.
Yeah, and we do support them and we do talk about them. And like I said before, sometimes after the meetings, we go to a local place, and we've gone to Milltown a few times. Though they're not a member, they are a local business, and we let them know that we're there supporting them after a meeting. Dan knows.
Yeah, and I know, obviously I've been there with you guys after those meetings sometimes. It's kind of too bad that the morning Winnie spot just went on, and I should have thought of it earlier. Since Missy was looking for people to do it, I would have suggested that would have been a nice gesture on behalf of on TBA's behalf for this past go round, but that's come and gone now. So.
Well, the problem really is parking. I mean, we were going to go there, my wife and I, a few days ago, and there was nowhere to park. It was just a little jumble there in his whatever he had left for parking spaces. So we drove by. We intended to go there. So we can only give him so much support because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, once we're through this little hurdle, so they had 8 spaces out front that were in the state's right of way, and the state was never going to let them use it. And you know, we told them that a long time ago. When the construction project is done, they're going to get 4 or 5 new spots across Rawson. Yeah, definitely 4, possibly depending on how the final configuration goes, it might be up to 5. We're only going to do part of the patio because we're proposing something to the state as an adjustment, which is still in the state's right of way. But if the state agrees to let them do it, and you know they agree to pay the lease on it, that would give them another 2. And then there's also parking on Market Street behind Swanson Park, which is parallel parking. On-street parallel parking. That's already there. So one of the challenges, and it is a legitimate challenge that they raised, is that it's not great access in the existing configuration for people who are mobility challenged. So if able-bodied people were to use those Swanson Park, backside of Swanson Park spots, and leave those other spots for people with mobility challenges, that, you know, that could demonstrate that in fact, those are viable parking spaces. So just something to keep in mind there.
Is there any How much
That's
do you think
exactly
it would
what I
cost?
did last week.
How much do you
Go
think it
ahead,
would cost? How much do you think it would cost to have maybe 5 or 10 yard signs, type signs that would say, you know, parking over here? Just leave them up for as long as they're around, but certainly for the crisis.
Well, we have certainly advised them that even after this construction is done, if they were to restripe their own parking lot and put up signage, you know, on the side of the building or the front of the building, whatever, directing people where to park, that would be helpful. You know, and they have some handwritten signs up there now, and I do think that people are getting that message. But anyway, the point of my little ramble there is, if anybody can think of some ways, and that might be one, Charlie, to look into some yard stake signs, although I don't know where they would go either.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they would go, but
the construction would be done anyway.
They could be a gift from Thompson Business Association saying, you know.
By the time they were made, Charlie, they would be useless.
Yeah.
And there's really nowhere to stake them anyway that would help.
He does have a sign on where that little side entrance is. He put that up, but I don't know how many people actually know that entrance exists. But yeah, I mean, I was down there almost 3 days in a row with my kids, but you know, and I felt bad from one day. I went down there. I was telling Tira earlier today. I went down there for lunch, and this triaxle's parked right in the middle of the parking lot, right?
Oh, nice.
Blocking everything. I went around back and I got out. And I said, "Hey, guy, you got to move this triaxle. People are trying to get in here." He goes, "Well, we're on break. It's lunch." I go, "Yeah, I'm trying to get in here for lunch." Like, you got to move it out of the way. You know, and the guy looked at me like I had two heads. I'm like, "Come on, man. Come on." You know? Anyway, the kicker of it was, then 3 of those guys were using Dan's porch, and they had Wendy's.
Oh, nice.
Like, you know, you could get a hamburger 10 feet inside here, buddy. You realize that, right?
A better hamburger.
I was like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about kicking you when you're down. You know,
some people's kids.
Yeah. Anyway.
Lafredo, did you have something? You and Charlie kept talking over each other for a second there.
I think Brian's talking to his TV.
No, I got to remember to turn off the TV when I talk, lower the TV.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just repeating what Tara was suggesting, that I actually had parked when I was there the day of that meeting, having lunch at Milltown, and I parked on Market Street to leave those parking places for other people. Unfortunately, a lot of other people wouldn't necessarily think of that or know that they're there. So, but that worked for me. And my wife and daughter had eaten there earlier in the week as well. So we're trying to support them. We actually hadn't been there in a few months. So doing my share.
Yeah, and I didn't realize those spaces were there. So learn something new all the time.
So the only other updates on the sidewalk project, the landscaping material was delivered late yesterday, so that should start to be installed any minute now. Because we're not going to do the complete patio plan at Milltown yet, some of that is going to be excess. We're going to need to figure out how to solve that, because we paid for the full amount. But the front of Town Hall and some other areas are going to get some beautification. And then the other thing that came out of that meeting on Friday was the gap in the sidewalk project, closer to the end where I live on Blaine, where the old Grosvenor-Dale post office is, and Northeast Sand and Gravel. That was left as a gap, partly because it was assumed that Northeast Sand and Gravel was going to be presenting an application for development there. So it didn't make any sense to put in something permanent that was going to be ripped out. But we told the engineer after that meeting, there's nothing immediately in the works there. And there is definitely another section that could be curbed and poured in between the two driveway aprons. So that is actually now going to be continual poured concrete with the granite curbing in front of the old post office. They just
started today.
They just put the curb in today, so they did a little more pavement cut. So the whole thing is going to look uniform now. So that was actually something good that came out of that meeting as well.
Okay, should look pretty good by the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, Lafredo, you're up. Centerville Bank turkey trot.
Okay, I forget who I update with what, but we have reached a record in fundraising this year. Counting Day Kimball as one of our sponsors who take a little longer for the check. And we just got the application actually from Dan Bennett. He didn't send the check with it, but once that application is in, and knowing Dan, I know we can count on that. So at this point, I believe the number is 11,450 in fundraising. That number is upstairs since I'm downstairs. Last year we raised 11,050, and we still have about 5 or 6 people that sponsored last year that have not sponsored yet this year that we do expect to still have. A couple names like the one Heather gave us today sounds like a real good lead, and I already texted Mr. Levency and he will contact them tomorrow. So my goal is to still hit at least 12. I wanted to hit 13,000 this year. That's still possible. So fundraising is good. The John and I walked the trail. It was in pretty good shape. We cleaned up most of what we had. There was one log that was still down that he was going to go back for. The ranger contacted me today for confirmation of the trail route and gave me the codes for the gates, and we'll make sure that the electrical is in place. Levency had not yet contacted the ambulance service, so he was supposed to do that today to confirm that. We have 37 people registered on RaceWire and another 9 or so through the rec department so far. I don't know the number last year, but that sounds like it's about the same. Most of our registrations come in the last couple of weeks once people get an idea of the weather. Levency and I will be on Winnie on, I think it's the 25th. That was confirmed with Gary Osprey this week. And I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Everything seems to be going well. We have at least 30 volunteers in place as well. So we should have enough people to fill all our all our marshal positions and our parking. So yeah, looks good.
Congratulations,
any questions?
Brian. That's great.
Yeah, sounds
Thank you.
good.
Yeah, good work.
Okay, well, we're up. We're closing in on 8 o'clock here. We're up to comments by commission members and anything specific for the next agenda.
One thing.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure when I could bring this up. When Tara was talking about the grant applications, I only want to take up 1 minute. You were talking about the T-Mobile grant, Tara?
Yeah, it's a T-Mobile Foundation grant.
Correct, and you need to have shovel-ready projects?
Shovel-ready projects that are like community placemaking.
Yeah, okay, so my only idea is, and this is either yay or nay, could we use that towards the playground for the school?
Possibly. I may have sent the link up to Jess Bolte because she's one of the folks who asked me to send her likely links for things like that. I can tell you $50,000 doesn't go very far for playground equipment. So I don't know what their needs are up there.
So they need $150,000. So 50 would be a huge deposit into that. They're looking for $150,000.
If
According
they could,
to the other morning, right, when they were talking they need either repairing or replacing. So if we could take this T-Mobile grant and apply it towards the playground, that would certainly help, because I know that the school is going to start having fundraisers to raise money, probably just like they did in Putnam 30 years ago when they built their playground. They collected pennies, and it took years to collect the pennies, but they gathered enough to build their new playground in Putnam. But anyways, it was just an idea. If we could
no, I think that qualifies, Ben, and this is my thought, and B, you can pass this on to Heather if they're considering this. So it's a $50,000 maximum award for shovel-ready projects. So obviously 50,000 isn't the whole amount, and they would want to probably award to projects that could be completed based on their grant. So I would say once they were at a certain level of fund, and this grant comes up every quarter, right? They just constantly issue it. So once they're at a point in their fundraising where they have match funding, even though match funding isn't required, that makes a stronger application, and I can help them do that. That would be my thought about that, but it's a totally legit project in terms of, or at least as I would interpret their guidelines. So that's a good idea, Joanne.
That's all we got. That's all I got. Ready to move on.
Thank you, Joe.
Charlie's got a hand up.
Yep.
Trees. Everywhere I look, all these stately old trees are getting cut down. I think it would be a long-term benefit to the economy of the town of Thompson if we could find a source of funding. I know that they're out there, but I haven't looked in a while. That would provide either matching money for municipalities and property owners to plant trees. And if we don't start getting new trees in the ground, it's just going to lose a lot of its character. So that's just something to throw out there. I know that there are sources, and I think that the ones that I knew of were for urban reforestation, but I think that we can qualify because of the 395 corridor.
We do have an urbanized area, which is the Route 12 and Route 131 travel lengths. So I'm hoping, and I'll do some research on it, but I'm hoping that we can find something that we can have it in place for next year. If you find anything, Charlie, just send it to me and I'll take a look at it and see if it's got legs. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie. Anybody else? Are we ready to move off? The next meeting is November 16th, last one of the year. So if everybody's all set, I'm okay to adjourn at 7:57. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Have a lovely evening, my friends.
You too.